The engines screamed, alarms wailed, and panic filled the cargo bay, until Evelyn gripped the controls. The transport bucked like a wounded animal, its steel ribs shuddering with every gust. Red emergency lights strobed over crates, stretchers, and faces gone waxy with fear. Hydraulic fluid misted the air in a bitter tang. Somewhere forward, a fire bell hammered, then cut, then hammered again, as if the plane itself couldn't decide whether to quit. "Pilot's not answering," Hale shouted over the din, one arm wrapped around a cargo net as the aircraft rolled left, hard. "Co-pilot 2." Evelyn Stone slammed her shoulder into the bulkhead, boots skidding on spilled coolant. "Masks on," she barked, shoving an oxygen kit into Ramirez's chest. "Tie down anything that moves that isn't breathing." A crate broke loose and scythed across the deck. Evelyn lunged, snapped a strap around the handle and reefed it back into its ring. The plane dropped. Stomachs lurched. Someone prayed in a language the storm couldn't swallow. Through the open cockpit door, she saw only flashing annunciators and an empty seat tilted wrong. Wrong because no one was in it. Wrong because a harness dangled, clipped but slack, the way a shirt looks without a body. "Stone," Hale's voice cracked. "If no one's flying, then I am," she said. She shoved through the flight deck hatch, ducking cables and torn insulation. The cockpit smelled like hot plastic and rain. A spiderweb of cracks veined the windshield. Through it, she caught a smear of black mountain and white river below, both much too close. The left seat was empty. The right seat, co-pilot, wasn't. He lay slumped against the floor, headset half torn off, a dark line of blood threading from his brow. Alive? Evelyn pressed 2 fingers to his neck. Pulse. Weak, but there. "Ramirez!" she yelled. "Get up here, drag him aft and strap him in. Head elevated, pressure on the cut." She slid into the left seat, boots hunting for the rudder pedals. Her world narrowed to yoke, throttle quads, the angry forest of warning lights. Training tried to surface. Half-remembered crew drills from a simulator she'd sat in once to pass a boredom hour. She took the parts of memory that mattered. "Talk to me, girl," she muttered to the plane. "What can you give me?" The artificial horizon was canted 5 degrees left and sinking. Airspeed hovered just above stall. The stick shaker had not yet chattered, but it was thinking about it. One engine's EGT ran hot. The other's fuel flow wavered with each gulp of turbulence. She eased the yoke right, not fighting the gust so much as leaning into it, then slid a touch of throttle forward on the cooler engine. The nose trembled, lifted a hair. "Stabilize, stabilize," she breathed. A terrain alert blared. "Pull up." Evelyn clenched her jaw, thumbed the alarm mute. "Working on it." The radio hissed with static. Somewhere in the wash of noise. "Mayday, Vector." Then a howl of atmospheric rage. She keyed the mic anyway. "Any tower, any traffic, military transport declaring emergency, pilot incapacitated, attempting control. Request vectors to nearest hard surface, any length." Silence answered, louder than the storm. Ramirez crawled back into the cockpit, panting. "Co-pilot's breathing. We've got him patched." "Good. Strap in." Evelyn kept her eyes forward. "We're heavy and slow. I'm bringing us to VREF plus 10 if the wind will stop lying to me." "Copy," whatever that means. "It means we don't stall if the sky cheats." She trimmed nose up 2 clicks, felt the column lighten, then nudged power again until the engine whine settled into a note that sounded like the word hold. The roll steadied from drunken to merely ill. Outside, the mountain fell away by inches. The river gleamed like a blade. "Storm cell ahead," Hale called from the bay. "Lightning like a strobe." "Then we thread the shadow," Evelyn said. She scanned the instrument cluster, compass, altimeter, vertical speed. She chose a heading that ran along the valley instead of at it. A sliver of moon appeared, then vanished, then winked again through torn cloud like a signal. Here, here, here. The master caution chimed. Fuel imbalance. Fine. She toggled crossfeed, watched the needles creep toward something like agreement. The plane's shutter softened another degree. Her breath followed suit. Okay, she said to the crew and to herself. We're flying. In the bay, the pitch of fear changed. It didn't vanish. Fear never does. But it shifted. Less wild, more watchful. People breathe differently when they think the person in front of them can actually see the road. Find me a runway, Hale, Evelyn called, eyes never leaving the gauges. Highway, straight stretch of dirt. I'll take a frozen lake if the ice is honest. He moved to a porthole, peering through rain with a flashlight cupped hand. I've got lights. Not a city, maybe a dam? Spillway? Good enough to start, Evelyn said. We'll make a plan on the way down. The plane hit a pothole in the air and dropped a yard. Ramirez swore. Evelyn rode it, hands quiet, letting the wings bite again instead of yanking them. Alarms simmered. The storm tried to shake her loose. She did not let go. Evelyn, Hale said softly, almost like he didn't want the plane to hear. You sure you can land this thing? No, she said, and allowed herself the smallest grin. But I'm sure I can keep it flying long enough to find somewhere to try. The engines screamed. The alarms wailed. But under Evelyn's hands, the transport remembered how to be an airplane. The storm clawed at the fuselage, rain hammering metal like fists. Evelyn leaned into the yoke, not fighting the turbulence but flowing with it, each correction small and measured. The transport no longer fell like a stone. It flew, bruised but alive. Behind her, the cargo bay buzzed with fear. Strapped-down soldiers whispered prayers. Others checked straps that had already been checked 3 times. Ramirez sat at the co-pilot seat now, headset crooked over one ear, reading gauges he only half understood. Altitude holding at 4,000, he said. Sort of. Sort of is the best compliment we're going to get, Evelyn replied. She squinted through the fractured windshield, searching for landmarks between slashes of lightning. Hale's voice came from the intercom. Stone. Storm cell widening. If we stay in this valley, we'll be boxed. Copy, Evelyn said. She scanned the map clipped to the panel. The main airstrip was beyond the ridgeline, out of reach. But secondary options glimmered. Rural fields, a decommissioned highway, maybe a frozen reservoir. None were marked safe, but safe had been a myth since the pilot vanished. Ramirez, get me headings. Anything flat, anything long. He adjusted dials with clumsy precision. There, bearing 270. Terrain flattens near a dam. The lightning flared again, and she saw it. Water glinting below, framed by the jagged teeth of hills. A dam spillway. Wide concrete ribs vanishing into the black. She filed it as a maybe. An alarm shrieked, hydraulic pressure low. The right engine coughed once, flames licking through the nacelle before the system choked it out. Evelyn tapped the gauge with a knuckle, as if urging it not to die. Stone? Ramirez asked, panic edging his tone. Not yet, she said. We still have 1.5 engines, which is 1.5 more than nothing. She feathered the throttle, balancing thrust. The yoke vibrated, heavy in her hands, but she kept the nose steady. Sweat dripped down her temple, stinging her eyes. In the bay, Hale barked. Everyone brace! Emergency landing possible! His voice was rough but firm, an anchor in the storm. The intercom crackled alive, static and then a voice, faint but clear. Military transport. We read you. State condition relief surged like oxygen. Evelyn keyed the mic. Pilot incapacitated, co-pilot injured, airframe unstable. Untrained pilot at controls. Request vectors to nearest runway or flat surface. There was a pause. Then, maintain bearing 270. Dam spillway west. Lights engaged. Emergency crews rolling. Evelyn allowed herself a thin smile. Copy. Bearing 270. We're bringing her in. Ramirez stared at her. You're really going to land on concrete meant for water? It's flat, it's long, and it's lit. That's all a runway ever is. The storm gave one final roar, sheets of rain blinding the cockpit. Evelyn adjusted trim, nudged the yoke, and whispered, "Hold together." Just a little longer. The transport leveled, nose aligned with the glimmer of lights breaking through the rain. Behind her, fear hushed into silence, every soul aboard realizing they were either minutes from death or from a miracle written by Evelyn Stone's hands. The lights of the dam spillway grew brighter through the storm, smeared by rain across the fractured windshield. Evelyn's hands stayed locked on the yoke, knuckles pale, every muscle alive with tension. The transport was heavy, sluggish, and wounded, but it was following her lead. 2 minutes to touch, Ramirez said, watching the altimeter dance. Not if the weather takes us first, Evelyn muttered. She eased the throttle, trying to balance speed with control. Too fast, they'd overshoot. Too slow, they'd stall and fall short. Hale's voice cracked from the bay. People are braced. Whatever happens, they're ready. Evelyn nodded, though no one could see her. She lowered flaps, listening to the airframe groan. The storm slapped the tail, the nose bobbed. She corrected calm and firm, every move measured. The dam appeared in full. A slab of concrete carved across the valley, floodgates roaring with white water. And along the top, strings of lights shone like a runway jury-rigged by desperation. Ramirez, Evelyn said, talk me in. He swallowed. Altitude 3,500. Descent rate high. Pull back a hair. She trimmed nose up, the yoke vibrating against her palms. Warning horns blared. Too low. Terrain. She killed them with a thumb. Not terrain, she hissed. Salvation. Lightning flared, illuminating spray leaping from the spillway. Wind gusted crosswise, slamming the fuselage sideways. Evelyn fought the urge to overcorrect, holding steady, letting the storm rage but not dictate. The runway lights, if they could be called that, rushed toward them. Gear down, she ordered. Ramirez yanked the lever. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, with a hydraulic wheeze, the landing gear locked. Green indicators winked faintly through the storm. A voice crackled in the headset. Transport, you're lined. Winds 25 cross, gusting 30. Spillway surface slick. Copy? Copy, Evelyn said, her voice iron. We're landing anyway. The altimeter spun. 2,000 feet. 1,500. Evelyn kept the nose aligned with the glow of lights, her heartbeat steady as a metronome against the chaos. 500, Ramirez called. Alarms screamed, Sink rate! Sink rate! Evelyn ignored them, eyes sharp. 200. The spillway lights blurred into one straight silver streak. She held the yoke firm, guiding the wounded plane down the final path. 100. Hold, she whispered. 50. The transport slammed into concrete, a jolt like a giant's fist. Tires screamed, water fountained. Evelyn slammed brakes, reversed thrust on the left engine, the airframe shuddering under her command. Sparks lit the storm as metal kissed stone. The plane fishtailed, hydroplaning across sheets of water. Evelyn fought the rudder, kicking, coaxing, refusing to let the beast roll. Hale's voice echoed from the bay. We're still upright. The nose wavered, then steadied. Speed bled. 30 knots. 20. 10. The transport crawled to a stop, rain hissing on the roof. Silence. except for the storm's endless roar. Evelyn's hands stayed on the yoke a full 30 seconds before she finally let go. The case of intel lay secured, passengers still strapped and alive. Against every prediction, against every fear, the impossible had just been done. Ramirez turned, staring at her with wide, exhausted eyes. "Evelyn, you just landed a damn transport on a dam." She exhaled once, then allowed herself the smallest grin. "Well," she said, "they said the pilot was gone." The transport sat trembling on the spillway, engines ticking like overheated hearts. Rain poured down, rinsing smoke from the wings. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the cabin erupted. Cheers, sobs, disbelief that the earth was beneath their boots again. Evelyn stayed in the cockpit, staring through cracked glass at the storm's fading edge. Her grip still remembered the weight of the yoke. The controls were quiet now, but her pulse roared like engines. Ramirez unclipped, sagging in his harness. "You realize," he said between ragged breaths, "you just landed 200,000 pounds of steel on a dam." "Correction," Evelyn murmured. "We landed." She nodded toward the unconscious co-pilot strapped in back. "He's still breathing. That counts." Hale's voice came over the intercom, hoarse with relief. "All passengers secured. No fatalities. You did it, Stone." "No," she said quietly, rising from the seat. "We did it. But the mission isn't done yet." She unslung the intel case from its tie-down. Mud streaks still marked its surface, rain pooling in its seams. But the diode blinked steady, stubborn, alive. The spillway lights strobed blue as emergency vehicles crawled closer from the far end. Rescue crews, searchlights cutting through sheets of rain. Soldiers rushed forward with blankets, stretchers, and tools. Evelyn carried the case herself down the ramp. Boots slapped against wet concrete, each step ringing louder than the storm. People stared as she passed, the woman who had taken controls when the sky betrayed them. A major in a soaked poncho approached, eyes wide. "Stone? Where's your pilot?" Evelyn handed him the case, her face unreadable under dripping shadows. "Gone, but the mission's alive. Keep it that way." He clutched the case as though it weighed the world. Around them, medics tended to the co-pilot and passengers, Hale directing with the calm of survival. Ramirez leaned against a truck, exhausted, rain washing blood from his hands. The major looked back at Evelyn. "You brought them home. How?" Evelyn glanced at the dark sky, the broken plane, the endless storm rolling west. Her answer was simple, almost a whisper. "When the pilot's gone, someone has to fly." The words hung there, heavier than thunder. Soldiers who overheard went quiet. They'd repeat it later, retell it, reshape it into something larger than fact. But in that moment, Evelyn wasn't thinking of legend. She was thinking of the faces she'd carried through chaos, and the way their breaths still filled the air. The storm finally eased, rain thinning to a mist. Dawn broke pale over the valley, painting the spillway in muted gold. The transport looked like a monument now, a scarred beast that had been forced to live when it should have died. Evelyn turned from it, walking toward the trucks, toward the next fight. The mission had survived. That was enough. And behind her, whispers spread. They said the pilot was gone, until Evelyn took the controls.